Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last year or so, I've been featuring each fille du roi or king's daughter and getting to know each and every one of them a little bit better. There are over 700 of them. We've come a long way, but we've got a long way to go. Today, we're on episode 141, and we're featuring Marie Sainte Vie Lamotte. That's a big, big name. We'll get to know her in a minute. But first, I wanted to show you how you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. Subscribe, like, and notify. The next three are ways to help the channel grow. Ko-fi, Etsy, and Patreon are all ways I'm showing your support. Check out the links if you're interested in the comments below. Let's get started. So Marie Sainte was born in 1649 in the city of Paris. Her parents were Robert Vier, the Sœur de Lamotte. So that means he was a Sir, somebody important. And her mother's name was Sainte Paulette. And she was actually baptized in the Catholic parish church of Saint Nicolas des Champs, which was built in the 15th century. It's still located there, and at the Rue Saint-Martin in the third arrondissement of Paris. So we're going to explore the third arrondissement, which is found on the right bank of the River Seine. It's referred to as Temple or Temple. This sector dates back to the Middle Ages and is the second smallest of Paris's sections, or arrondissement. Remember, we call those sections arrondissement, circles. Among notable facts about this sector is that it is here where you can find the oldest surviving private house in Paris, built in 1407. Imagine that house stood when Marie Sainte was a small child. I love to think of that, and I must one day see this house. And there is also an ancient Jewish quartier, which dates back from the 13th century, and it's an important part of the Jewish history of Paris. For those of you who didn't know that there was that sector of Paris and that history behind it, the picture here is of just the third arrondissement, as you can imagine, what Paris looks like, and this is one of those pictures. So let's get to find out why she came to New France. I was not able to determine if her father or mother had passed. I do know that she arrived on the Saint Jean Baptiste de Dieppe on June 30th, 1664. What was unusual is that Marie Sainte had two sisters living in New France. Her sister Marie and half-sister Marguerite Breton were already there. Marguerite was, of course, her half-sister. They shared the same mother. Marguerite would come to New France first. She was a fille mariée, which we will be studying very shortly, and arrived in Quebec in 1651. She and her husband, Nicolas Paternostre, which in time would become Papineau, would have 11 children. They were pioneers on Ile d'Orléans. Marie, her full and older sister, would come to New France in 1659 and would settle at Sillery and marry Hubert Simon and have 15 children. So they were long established. So I think it's really neat because a lot of these filles du roi came and they were orphans or they left their family behind. It's interesting to note that she had family, and that's just it's a very nice idea, And also from a genealogical perspective, you're really reaching out. There's a lot of descendants that you are connected to, but either by aunt or that sort of thing. So I can't wait to hear who's related to who. Jean was born in Cognac, which is a commune in the region called Pays de la Loire. And you can see the Pays de la Loire, where it is really on the edge of France. And he is in the bottom, his département, his county, is Vendée. So this area of France dates from the Roman times, and there are a few remnants of that time in this very small community. The name of Cognac can be first found in the 12th century. Jean was baptized in this town, possibly in the Church of Saint-Pierre. The above picture is the church as it looks today, the aerial view of the town as it looks today. His parents are Laurent Poitras and René Berthet. He was born about 1640, making him, older than Marie Sainte, but that was part of the standard of the time. So let's get to see when they get together. Despite her young age, she did get married very quickly upon her arrival. She and Jean were married on August 27th, 1664, about 6 weeks after her arrival. So that's pretty quick. Let's see where they settled. Let us have a look at where Marie Sainte and Jean would settle. They settled in Quebec City. And just want to give you a little bit of information on this amazing city. It is, of course, the capital city of the province of Quebec. Today, 500,000 people live here. Quebec was originally named by the Algonquins, who named the area Quebec, K-E-B-E-C, which in their native language meant where the river narrows. As it happens, Quebec City lies where the St. Lawrence River narrows. Samuel Champlain founded a French settlement here in 1608 and called it L'Île de Québec, or Quebec City. The city walls, which surround it still, date back to this time period, making Quebec City the only city with remaining city walls in North America. Now, there's so much to see here, but I wanted to point out Maison Jacquette, which is the oldest surviving private residence in Quebec. It dates from 1675. And if you'd like to tour it, it's home to a very famous restaurant. And it's called Aux Anciens Canadiens, roughly translated to our old Canadians or to our historic Canadians. And then we have the commercial district down here on your left. This is probably the oldest commercial district in North America, filled with shops and pretty things and cobblestone streets and everything you would imagine. And it really is if you've been to Boston, you kind of have a feeling about it, but remember that Quebec City predates it by at least 30 years. So, and then we have an artist's depiction of what Quebec City looked like in 1700. And then we have an older style map of Quebec and its surroundings. We also have the 1681 census where Jean Poitras, menuisier, which means carpenter, he's 42, and Marie Sainte Vie is sa femme, 32, and then they are their children. Françoise, Charlotte, 16. We have René, 14, Jean, 10, Joseph, 9, François, 6, Pierre, 4, Jeanne, 2. They really, were working there. They have 1 gun, they have 4 goats, 1 horse, and 20 arpents en balade, which is amazing, actually. That's a lot. And so that's probably about 16 to 18 acres of land. So that's quite a bit. Let's see the family that they built. As you can see by the slide, they had an astonishing 18 children. Just amazing. So Charlotte Françoise married Jean Sidilou and had 9 children, 5 of whom made it to adulthood. We have René, who passed away in 1682. We have Louis, who died at 6 months. We have Jean, who married Jeanne Moffett, but did not have any children before his early death at 31. We have Joseph, who married Catherine Alain and had 9 children, but only 3 of whom survived. Marie-Madeleine died at birth. François married Anne Petitclerc and had 2 children, both of whom made it. Anne's mother was Françoise Perry, who was a fille du roi, who we'll be profiling in a future video. Pierre would pass away in infancy. Louis would also die in infancy. Marie-Geneviève would also die in infancy. Denis would also die. Jean-Louis would marry Madeleine Chevalier, and Madeleine's mother was Françoise Marthe Berthaud, who we profiled in episode 110. Joseph Lucien would marry Geneviève Moisan and have 12 children, 7 of whom would make it. Genevieve's mother was Barbara Roto, a fille du roi who we'll be profiling in a future video. Françoise would die in infancy. And then Marie-Joseph would marry René Girard and have 5 children, all of whom would make it to adulthood. Marie would not marry, but would have 2 natural children who did not survive. Marie-Anne would marry Joseph Capelier and have 2 children, both of whom would survive. And Pierre would pass away in infancy. Just an amazing, I mean, it's heartbreaking to see just the number of children that passed away. So despite the amount of children that they produced and had, very few of them actually survived. So just an interesting kind of, and the fact that she just kept bearing these children and would ultimately have to bury them. So my heart broke when I saw this. Tragically, on the 28th of July, 1691, at the very young age of 42, Marie Sainte would pass away at the Hôtel Dieu Hospital, and she was obviously suffering from some ailments. She died in hospital and is buried in their cemetery. You know, what we now know about the body and that many children in that short a time, obviously probably contributed to her passing. There are no words to say, like when I read it and really realized her contribution and what she did, just amazing, amazing kind of, you know, contribution. Just, she gave her life, ultimately. And the descendants of this amazing woman, young woman, can thank her contribution and her sacrifice for their existence. So I really, really want to pause and just pay homage to this amazing woman. So let's carry on with the story and see where it takes us. About 4 years after his wife's passing, Jean would marry Marianne de Lavoie, who was significantly younger. She was about 22 at the time, and he was in his 50s. They were married on the 26th of April, 1695, at Notre Dame. Let's see what happens with Jean and his new bride, Marianne. So they would go on to have 10 children. Claude would die in infancy. Jean would die at 6 years of age. Elisabeth married Pierre Lehay and had 4 children, all of whom made it. Marie-Madeleine married Louis Barbe and had 3 children, all of whom made it. Jeanne would marry Etienne Renvoisier and have 3 children, all of whom made it. Philippe died tragically at 10. Jacques married Marianne Gagne and had 2 children, both of whom made it. Marie-Louise married Louis Gauthier and had 5 children, all of whom made it. And Marie-Anne married Etienne Amiotte and had 4 children, all of whom made it. I also want to point out that Marie-Anne was the daughter of a fille du roi that we'll be featuring, Isabelle Aupé, and we'll be featuring her in a future video. I forgot to say that when I was introducing her. So just a really astonishing amount of children. So he had 18 children with his first wife, another 10 with his second. Just amazing, amazing, I don't want to say productivity, but, you know, extraordinary, you know, descendancy. John would pass away at the age of 71. He also passed away at the Hôtel Dieu, and he would be buried in the same cemetery as his first wife. So just an amazing life story that he had, and that he was able to keep going, you know, and not only produce children, but also a life, and was strong. So absolutely, absolutely, a tremendous, strong man, and one whose his descendants can be very proud of. I am always so thrilled when I'm able to promote an association of the family that we're studying, and this one does have one. I'm not surprised. Association des Familles Poitras, and I've listed the link below. Have a look at that. It looks like a fabulous website, and they have a Facebook page as well, as you can see. So yeah, have a look at that if that is your ancestry, because you will definitely find out more info, and let me know. Some of my favorite resources, La Société des Filles du Roi, the Quebec Genealogical E-Society, Nos Origines, Généalogie Québec, Migration, and Facebook. I've listed the links for you in the notes section. Have a look at that and see. And if you have, you know what, I've never asked, but if you all have a website you'd like me to promote in terms of research and that sort of thing, I'd absolutely love to have a look. And please post in the comments below and share what you have found. That would be awesome. This has been a remarkable journey, this episode that we've been looking at. First, we start off with Marie Sainte and her incredible 18 children, her early death, Renée remarrying, having another 10 children. I just think this is a story that really tells us the strength, the contributions, the sacrifices these people made for us, and the fact that they existed and came to our shores. We bless their memories and we thank them for their sacrifice. And with that, I will see you on episode 142. Until then, au revoir.